Hi, this is Courtney, and I wanted to share something a little bit more personal today that really changed my life. And as I have been talking about a lot of the things I talk about on this channel, health, personal well-being, financial well-being, spiritual well-being, all the things, I kind of had this realization that my life did not really start to change until I started letting go of being a victim and a martyr. And it was not a slow process, it is a continual process. I am now about to be 52, and I would definitely say it's been a lifelong journey of mine. I don't really want to dish out what the things in my life are that I feel were victimized, and I don't believe in victim shaming. I definitely believe most people have suffered some kind of hurt in their life, and it is all relative. There's what a friend of mine who's a psychologist says, there's big trauma and little trauma. I will give you a little bit of background. I was raised in a family plagued with addiction, and so I have been in and out of support groups since I was 13. And when you're in that kind of family, there's so much self-involvement with the person or people who have addiction that for me being a child, there was some neglect, if you will. And so that also allowed other people to take advantage of me by putting me in situations where I wasn't being watched. And so as things went on, I ended up marrying someone with addiction at the age of 18. I dated abusive men. I ended up divorcing the first husband. I had been in several abusive relationships as a teenager, and then I was only married to my first husband for a short period of time. I had a lot of problems when I was young because I really didn't know what a healthy relationship was, and I really was never taught about male-female relationships and how that should work, and about respecting yourself and your body. And so when I got married the second time, it was because I got pregnant, and the person I married, I did care about and love, but they were more my friend. It wasn't like a whirlwind romance or anything like that. And there were probably some things that I just didn't see because of the way I grew up, and I probably should have seen, but just didn't, because when you grow up in an unhealthy circumstance, you don't see the world the way other people see it who haven't grown up in unhealthy homes. That is normalized for you. And so for the longest time, I just didn't know any different. And there was a sense that I had that something wasn't right, that things weren't healthy, things weren't right, but I didn't know for sure. When I was, oh my goodness, I think I was 20 when I got pregnant with my first child and got married. I had to have been, because I got married in 1991, which was right before my 21st birthday. And I had lost the baby. I had had a stillborn baby. It was a later term pregnancy. It was my second term. Later in my second term, these days that baby probably would have lived, and I ended up delivering a stillborn. And I went into a deep postpartum depression, and I had to be put on antidepressants. They had just come on the market at that time, and that really saved my life. But because of that, I also went into therapy, and I had a really great therapist. I'll never forget, her first name was Jamie, and she was wonderful. And I started to learn about my life, and I think I had really started to relate myself to being a victim. It's just all I knew. And as I got therapy, I continued therapy. I didn't always make good decisions. I ended up getting in a support group, and then I had kids, and the kids kind of stalled me working on myself as much. So over time, though, I continued to go to therapy, more for marriage than for myself, but I also got some of my own therapy. And I did not go to my support group anymore, because I was in support group for being a child or a partner of an alcoholic, being a codependent. And I don't know why, but I think I was afraid to go. But through therapy and self-help and the self-help movement, I think that was the 90s, the 80s, I mean, not the 80s, but the 90s and the early 2000s and so on. I read book after book after book. I just absorbed all of it. I became a yoga teacher and read all of the philosophies of yoga and things like that. And I began to become unstuck. I began to focus on gratitude and not kind of a pie in the sky. These things didn't happen to me and they're not, and oh, well, they're not bad. They don't matter. They did. But I started to think about what was good. I was so focused on what was bad about my childhood, I wasn't seeing what was good. Through the therapy, my mom and I had a reconciliation and I forgave her. Unfortunately, she's still struggling to forgive herself, which I wish she would. And I just had a lot of growth. I started thinking about, what is this teaching me? What has life taught me in these lessons? I'm looking at this to make sure I don't forget anything. I have found the lessons in the pain. And I really believe now that without the pain and the struggles that I face, I would not be the person I am. I definitely struggle with an anxiety disorder. I'm aware of that. I think some of that is just in me, who I am, and some of that is just, my grandmother had an anxiety disorder. My mom has an anxiety disorder. Some of that's just my DNA, but some of that is because of the way I grew up, but I can see it now. As I began to be grateful, there was one particular year when I divorced my second husband after 20 years that I found was the most amazing. And it was also the hardest in many ways. I was going through a very hard time financially. I was raising my 4 kids. They were having a lot of problems. I was struggling in every way to be a good mom, to work, and I was exhausted. And my ex-husband was just, I feel like, purposefully trying to make my life hell. I feel like I have forgiven him. I don't hold resentment. I will never understand him. But at the same time, there was a book that came out on gratitude. I think her name was Sarah Von Breckwith. I'm not really sure. But for every day for a year, I don't know that I was perfect at it, but I was dang near close. I wrote down what I was grateful for. And some days it was like, I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful that I have food in my refrigerator. I mean, it was just the basics of life, but it taught me to focus on the good. And I began to also, through that process of being a single mom, I began to feel empowered. And I didn't blame my ex-husband. I didn't blame my childhood. I was like, I have to do this. I have to figure this out. Nobody's coming to help me. My family did not have the financial means to help me, and they didn't have the emotional means to help me either. My grandparents that raised me had died. It was just my mom and dad, and stepmom left. And while they were supportive, they weren't really set up to help me, if you will, in any way, shape, or form. So they did offer, I don't want to act like they didn't do anything. They did help me sometimes with like a little bit of watching the kids or something like that. But I began to think, I can do this. I believe in myself. And I worked really hard. And, you know, I forgave myself. There were some things that I wish I had done different. Often when you're with someone who has addiction or you grow up in addiction, you become sick yourself in your mind, because especially if you're dealing with abuse, what happens a lot with people who are dealing with abuse is they get abused so much that they begin to act out and fight back, and then the abuser can turn and blame them for that. I now see that, and I have forgiven myself. I wish I had made some better choices. I wish I hadn't fought back. I wish I had turned and walked away, but at the time, I was rationalizing in my mind that I was being bullied and I needed to defend myself, and I needed to show my children to not allow someone to treat you like that. What I didn't know was there was strength in walking away, and there were other ways to handle it that would have been stronger. So I have forgiven myself for that. I've been working on the solutions, and for all that hard work and all that pain I went through, I am now just so grateful, because I would not have the life I have now with my husband. He is a very loving and gentle and kind person. He's a hard worker. He's everything in a man that I could ask for. And I would not have been here not struggling financially anymore, being treated with respect and kindness, if I had not let go of being a victim and a martyr. I started to see that even though I had been victimized, if you will, in a way, I did recognize my role in it. And I also think that is important. I recognized my role in my codependency and how I tried to martyr and change my exes into being something I thought they should be. And by doing so, I prolonged the relationship instead of it getting better. And so I'm just so grateful. Life was hard. Life has been hard in a lot of ways. I don't really like talking about the what happened. I'm sure you can feel that I've, given, I've inferred. I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm sure you can pick up on some of it. But without all of those things, I feel like that was my journey. And my spiritual beliefs are such that I feel like we're all sent to this earth to learn. And that if we don't learn, I personally believe that it's very possible that we come back in a different form to learn those lessons again in different form. There are some people who believe that you're reborn in heaven, you get a new body and you stay in that body. That might be true. I don't know. Or there are some people who believe that we're reincarnated and we come back. And all I know for sure is that I feel certain we're here to learn and to evolve, and that love is what really matters. And at the end of the day, all of the things all of this stuff we have, it won't really matter. What will matter is that we've evolved, that we've been loving, that we've been kind, and that we have grown. And when we grow, we find the reward. And it's that old, kind of cliche that without the rain, you don't grow. Without the dirt, you don't grow. You have to have some hardship for growth. And if you can see that and accept that, then you will grow. I hope this has been a little bit of a ramble, but I really wanted to get those things out because I think it is so important. I talk a lot on here about personal finance. None of that would have been possible, the financial gains and things like that, or where we are today, without me becoming unstuck. If I had tried to feed my hollow places, my empty places with stuff, then I wouldn't be where I am today. But instead, I fed those empty places with therapy, with support, with learning about myself, and gratitude. And I sure hope you can too. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.